Hi, my name's John Lampy. I'm a licensed pesticide applicator in the categories of natural areas and forests. Today I'm going to present on how to control a large stand of invasive knotweed. Our company, Green Shoots, makes and sells precision herbicide dispensing equipment. Our equipment works really well for controlling invasive knotweed. However, even if you don't use our dispensers, I think you'll find this video gives you some helpful hints. When I refer to a large stand of knotweed, I mean a stand over approximately 500 square feet or 46 square meters. If you want to control a small patch of knotweed, check out our video that is directed to homeowners. This video does not cover knotweed identification. There are many excellent sources on the web for identification. There are 4 species of knotweed common to North America, and there are many hybrids. If you're at all unsure whether you're dealing with one of those 4 species, be sure to ask an expert. My assumption is that because you are watching this video, you already understand the threat that invasive knotweed poses. If you don't, or if you need something to show your neighbor who happens to like the knotweed growing in your adjacent backyards, here's the best article I have read summarizing the problem with knotweed. It's by Henry Graybar, Oh No, Not Knotweed, and it's in Slate magazine from May of 2019. It's just an excellent article. What I especially like about the Graybar piece is how it draws attention to how destructive knotweed is to natural habitat. Where invasive knotweed grows near streams, for example, nothing else does. This is highly destructive to stream habitat and water quality. If knotweed is nearly impossible to kill, as Graybar states, what can you do? While it may be tough to eliminate from a site entirely, you can control knotweed to an extent that it intrudes insignificantly on a native landscape. As discussed later, we are also trying some new techniques to fully eradicate it that have proved promising. To tackle knotweed, you must have clear objectives. I recommend these 3. First, control the invasive knotweed stand quickly. Second, do this in a way that minimizes harm to the environment. And 3, in a way that prepares the site for immediate restoration with native plants. To accomplish these objectives, I recommend you divide the work into seasonal phases. The first is late winter or spring. During this time, you'll prepare for fall herbicide treatments. The second phase is early summer, and at this time, you'll create a treatment grid at the site. The third is fall. Here's when you'll be doing the actual herbicide treatments, namely 2 successive ones. And then the 4th seasonal phase is ongoing work, and this is simultaneous mechanical control and restoration. It's best if you can start your work on the knotweed in late winter or early spring, i.e. the first phase, but you can also jump in at other times of the year too. In the resources section of our Green Shoots website, we'll post a PDF that is an outline of this presentation. So there's no need to take notes. We'll also update that document with the most recent developments in knotweed control. So let's look at phase 1. This is late winter, early spring. During this time, you'll be doing 2 things. The first is mapping the extent of the infestation, and the second is dealing with the dead stalks. The map you make does not have to be fancy. If you are a professional applicator, you already create maps as part of your records. Winter is a good time to start the map, but early spring works fine too. Dealing with the dead stalks involves cutting or knocking them down. You can also use an ATV or tractor or other vehicle for this. Knocking down the dead stalks is not essential, but it will make your latter work at the site a lot easier. The combination of dead and full-grown live stems turns a stand into an impenetrable thicket. Research indicates that some knotweed species in North America produce viable seed. Therefore, it's probably safest to leave the dead stalks on the site. Or if you do remove them, do so in bags. Another thing you can do in the spring is dig up the crowns of the outlying knotweed plants. Digging up these outlying plants is not as arduous as it would be in the heart of the colony, and it may restrain colony expansion. I'll say a little bit more about this later. Some experts would also recommend mowing the knotweed stems periodically before treatment in the fall. The theory is that you deplete the stored energy of the colony through successive cuttings. I often recommend this approach for other invasive plants, but not for knotweed. I don't for two reasons. First, you risk distributing propagules, the cut green stems, that can reroot and expand the colony. Second, published research such as the 2018 study by Jones and Associates at Swansea University in Wales indicates that mowing may diminish the effectiveness of fall herbicide treatments. However, this is an area of ongoing controversy among experts. Now we move to phase 2. This is early summer, and this is when you'll create the treatment grid at the site that I referenced earlier. The treatment grid gives you better access to the site and creates buffer zones to protect non-target desirable plants. You make the grid by knocking down some of the knotweed to improve access to the stand for the fall herbicide treatments. If you are using a drone or an aerial boom to do treatments, portions of this grid may not be necessary. To knock down the knotweed, you can use a shovel, rake, or your feet. Try not to break off the stems completely. You still want to be able to treat the knocked down stems in the fall. This diagram shows a grid created for a rectangular site. The rows of standing knotweed are 10 feet or about 3 meters wide. As an operator, I don't want to spray knotweed that is more than about 5 feet away from me. By spraying the rows from both sides, you can cover the full 10 feet width of the row. This second diagram shows a generally circular shaped stand and how you might knock down the knotweed stems to improve access. For the remainder of the summer, allow the knotweed to grow. When the knotweed flowers, don't spray the stand. Bees often frequent knotweed flowers. This makes it imperative that you replace the knotweed with natives that provide good foraging for bees. Now we move to phase 3, late summer or fall. This is where you're finally going to be doing the herbicide treatments. Timing an herbicide application to knotweed is a bit tricky. The ideal time is just before a killing frost. Knotweed is very efficient at removing all the sugars from the green stems or aerial shoots and storing those sugars in underground rhizomes for the winter. You want the herbicide to be translocated with those sugars to the underground rhizomes. However, once a hard frost occurs, your treatment window has closed. Therefore, follow the calendar shown here. If anything, do your treatment 3 weeks before the expected hard frost. That way, if the hard frost comes early, you can move the date for the second treatment up. For application equipment for a medium to large infestation, i.e. up to about an acre or a half hectare, use the Green Shoots large foam herbicide dispenser. If you have more than a couple acres or work professionally, consider our precision electronic dispenser. This system can dispense either foam or liquid spray drops. The precision electronic dispenser can be used with or without a backpack. As mentioned, our precision electronic dispenser can use either foam or spray. I would suggest you try foam. There are 5 reasons for this. First, foam herbicide clings well to leaf surfaces, both the tops and undersides of those leaves. Second, foam herbicide takes longer to dry than conventional sprays. This increases the uptake of the herbicide by the plant. Third, foam herbicide is highly visible, so you know exactly where you have applied it. Fourth, foam herbicide can be applied with low pressure, under 10 psi. This reduces drift. Fifth, and finally, foam herbicide can be applied very precisely. This short video clip shows our large foam herbicide dispenser being used with a mesh brush to apply
foam very precisely. What herbicide should you use? I recommend glyphosate. Jones and colleagues at Swansea University in the United Kingdom found it to be the most effective herbicide on knotweed. Their trials were the most comprehensive ever done on knotweed. In the United States, we have herbicides such as imazapyr that are no longer available in Europe or the United Kingdom. Many publications recommend using imazapyr on knotweed. This is my take on imazapyr versus glyphosate. I concede a single application of imazapyr may be more effective than a single application of glyphosate. I recommend 2 applications of glyphosate. Why go to this extra trouble? The second spot application doesn't take that long, it doesn't use much herbicide, and it ensures you have treated every knotweed stem. Glyphosate also binds tightly with soil. Imazapyr, on the other hand, can migrate in the soils and be a risk to nearby desirable plants. Glyphosate also allows you to start your restoration work earlier. This is critical in creating competition for invasive knotweed. What rate should you use for glyphosate? I have settled on a tank solution with about 3% active ingredient. Note that this is not the highest label rate. At higher label rates, however, I have sometimes found premature leaf browning and curling, especially on sunny days. If this happens, I fear the translocation of the herbicide to the rhizomes and roots may be reduced. This slide shows how you mix the foamable glyphosate solution with 3% active ingredient. On the left side, you see the mix for non-aquatic glyphosate. On the right is the mix for aquatic. I always mix herbicides using the metric system because it's a lot easier. Our instructions also show how to do it with fluid ounce equivalents. Before you start spraying at your site, plan the route you're going to take. For example, as shown in this slide, start on the outside row. The blue shading part represents the first section of applied foam herbicide. Then apply herbicide to the second section, also shown in blue. When you do the third section, you can also spray the knotweed in the path behind you. Continue in this manner until you have sprayed all the internal rows and paths. Next, go around the periphery and spray the outside buffer areas. With the preparation you have done, the spraying should proceed relatively quickly. When you spray, only cover about 20 to 30% of the foliage. You will get another chance to apply more herbicide with the second application. Next, wait 2 to 3 weeks. Glyphosate and other systemic herbicides take a while to work. When you go back to the site, you should be able to tell which leaves need a reapplication of herbicide. These leaves shown here, for example, won't absorb more herbicide, so no need to apply to them. With an area like this, where some of the leaves are still green, do another foliar application. For more isolated knotweed plants, or if you're applying near desirable species, consider using the mesh brush attachment. You can then do a precise wipe with the foam herbicide. In this photo, foam herbicide was dabbed on several knotweed leaves using the mesh brush. After the second treatment, there may be things you can do at the site before winter. These include, for example, seeding native grasses. The reason you need to think about seeding natives is that the death of the knotweed at the site creates an opening that will be filled by something. You want to make sure that opening is filled by native plants. Another thing to consider is whether to install erosion control such as silt fencing. Knotweed stands do a poor job of erosion control, but they are better than no vegetation, especially if the site is near a stream or is in an area that is flood prone. Erosion control may be essential. Now we're at the final phase, phase 4, which is ongoing restoration and maintenance. This phase is critical. In the spring after the treatments, the site should look dramatically different. This is a tipping point. If you slack off now, you may see an invasion by other invasive species. The knotweed can also return over time. At some sites like this one, you may see native pioneer species move in.
Not all of them are pretty, but they move aside as the restoration matures. This is actually a good sign. And it's a sign you are not far from having the site 99% clear of knotweed. With the persistent work of volunteers, many of whom were master naturalists, this site turned out really well. Herbicide treatments are now minimal. Most of the invasives work is mechanical removal and is focused on species other than knotweed. Is this the happy ending? Not yet. Scattered knotweed persist at the site. Many are misshapen like these. This is after 5 years of fairly regular spot treatments with herbicide. One of the biggest difficulties is finding the knotweed amidst the foliage, especially in late summer and fall. The remaining knotweed have almost no effect on the ecosystem at the site. Nonetheless, we'd like to eliminate them to ensure they never come back. This has prompted us to modify our approach. Given that the knotweed are still in a weakened state and are scattered, mechanical removal is now feasible. We decided to target the remaining knotweed with a combination of mechanical removal and herbicide treatments. The implements for mechanical removal can be basic, like a shovel with a sharp edge for slicing through the knotweed rhizomes. As shown in this sped-up video clip, the digging is much less arduous than it would be if you were attacking the rhizomes in a healthy knotweed colony. When you dig, make sure you collect all the live knotweed parts. You don't want to leave these fragments at the site because they could restart the colony. You can leave the dead stems on the ground at the site. Collect the living plant matter in bags. Be sure to fill the hole or just plant something in it. We left the flag to help us monitor any resprouting. Instead of digging, you could also hoe or cut the knotweed foliage. However, excavation may be the quickest and most effective in the end. The United Kingdom has clear rules on the disposal of knotweed plant matter. It must be disposed of at special sites. Unfortunately, in the US, the guidance is not so clear. Here you need to check state and local regulations. Where you live, there may be no clear guidance on what to do with the knotweed. Keep in mind, however, there are some clear don'ts that should guide you regardless where you live. First, don't pile cut green stems or living rhizomes in a moist area. They may reroot or could move off-site. Second, don't leave scattered green stems or living rhizomes. Third, don't send knotweed waste to a conventional compost facility. There are two options you may consider for dealing with the rhizomes and living plant matter. First, you can dry the rhizomes and green stems in a place where they won't reroot or escape from the site. Second, you can store these parts in black plastic bags and cook them at the site. This usually takes a few weeks. Keep in mind, at each step along the way, you can transform a site from a knotweed monoculture to one with an abundance of native plants. That happened at this site with a small investment of money and a big contribution from volunteers. Please consider liking this video. Also, please comment. Any criticism is welcome.